before the panelists, I'll thank Unni and Manoj for inviting me to this beautiful place and a great meeting. Central serous retinopathy, should I start or should I wait for the panel? So as Dr. Talwar has amply shown actually, if you call older people into a meeting like this, with newer imaging terms, this is what is going to happen, You'll have a lot of fingering. And in fact, I count myself more of Dr. Talwar's generation, so I'll probably be also present a contrarian view here. So there are multiple modalities of imaging, and my purpose here is not to show how these multiple modalities can be used in various variants of CSCR. Fundus photography is hardly imaging actually. You can just examine the fundus and be done with it. Fluorescein angiography and optical coherence tomography are generally enough in most of the cases. And I'm not sure I know how to use the pointer actually. Where's the pointer? Is it working? Yeah, right, good. So indocyanine green angiography and autofluorescence do help a lot, but I'm not even going into the other modalities which I have used sometimes, but they're not really required in most of the cases. We often miss out on common sense actually. So we do not need any multimodal imaging. In fact, we should focus on minimalist imaging to diagnose the disease better. Looking at common sense things like age and sex, though they are less relevant now in case of CSCR, as I'll discuss later than before. The other eye, the presence or absence of thickened choroid, the associate findings like vitreous cells and chorioretinal scars, and systemic examination, and believe me, not just the drug history, but even family history sometimes helps. And finally, the art of clinical correlation, for example, how big a type 1 CNV or an occult CNV would cause so much of a serous detachment, or how much of a choroiditis is required to cause a serous elevation. Because if you look at the common alternative diagnosis, these are all the cases I've seen personally actually. I'll only discuss the highlight one for the lack of time, but imagine not just an exudative AMD and other varieties of CNV, but even inflammatory diseases which are very important to differentiate. Other completely different diseases like MACTEL and even heredomacular degenerations, and even a tumor can be confused with CSCR. I remember when I was in Arvind actually, a fellow once remarked that at least a typical CSCR with a young middle-aged man, type A personality, a short history, a recurrence in central scotoma should be a straightforward diagnosis. So I thought so, and it looks like that, but I will show how even that can be different. But mostly it is the atypical CSC which looks like the root of all evil. So first we should know how it becomes atypical. So the main variants are age, sex, chronicity, and steroid abuse, and also the systemic and other ocular diseases. Now the problem is people like Dr. Dinesh Talwar and myself, we don't retire gracefully and glide into the sunset. So the level of cortisol remains high, and add hypertension to the mix, and it becomes a perfect storm. Nowadays, the women also do not remain housewives, and because they work, they also have developed a type A personality. And in fact, it has been shown in studies that the level of testosterone in women is directly proportional to their professional success. So women are becoming more like men, and therefore getting more CSCR. And you remember that when they become older, they lose their estrogen edge. However, sometimes even the young, bored housewives are not spared. For example, I had this patient when I was in Arvind, a 30-year-old primipara in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, with a good vision in the right eye, but a slightly reduced in the left eye, with no systemic illness. Now, before jumping to the diagnosis of choroiditis, we just got an OCT done, just one investigation. And that thankfully, because FFA was not probably contraindicated. So we clearly saw there was a right eye extramacular serous detachment with a PED, and the left eye there was a macular detachment with smaller PEDs. Now ignore the RP undulations. This is because of our older status OCT and because of the small pupil, but otherwise the RP is normal. So because there were clearly PEDs, we diagnosed a case of CSCR and did nothing. And naturally, post-partum, this patient recovered full vision and the fundus integrity too. So, barring this, chronic CSC probably is the disease which you have to worry about, and more so us Asians actually, because it is much more common, much more severe in Asians, as actually, shamefully for us, has been shown more by Caucasians, like Dr. Yanouzi and their group actually. In fact, the most recent and the biggest study on chronic CSCR, I found in ophthalmology just, I think, a month or two back, by the three giants of CSCR. I mean, I compare them with, Rafa, Djokovic, and Federer of tennis, who between them have all the trophies of Grand Slams. So similarly, Spade, Yanouzi, and Freund have probably done a lot of work in CSCR together. If you club the investigation, there's hardly anything left for others. So they showed that chronic CSCR is one which lasts more than 6 months, but don't confuse with the recurrence after 6 months. A single episode should last for more than 6 months to chronic CSCR, and not that every CSCR after 6 months becomes atypical. It may remain typical, but sometimes some of these cases develop leaks which become softer. So Yanouzi called them ooze rather than leaks. If you, because they're already in the middle age, when if they become chronic, they extend to the old age, and now you have a double whammy. You have an RP pump which is pumping slowly, and therefore it develops atrophy and decompensation, as you can see very beautifully in autofluorescence here. The retina cannot stand the long-standing subretinal fluid, and therefore it develops cystoid degeneration as well as schisis, as you can see here. So it starts looking like other diseases. And add to that a hypertensive choroidal injury which further aggravates the disease. So now let me jump to case directly. This is a patient I saw recently in my practice in Gwalior, and this is a 70-year-old man with the 6/18 vision in the right eye and nearly normal vision in the left eye. This has lasted for several years, and this patient is hypertensive as well as diabetic. Now, what you note here is the picture. Because of our knowledge of chronic CSCR, we thought it looks like a CSCR actually. Because first of all, with such large lesions in AMD, he should not have such good vision. So we did a fluorescein angiography, but didn't help actually. So this is an early and late phase of the fluorescein angiography in the right eye, and the left eye was similar. So it could be either diffuse RP decompensation of a CSCR, or an occult CNVM, or a polypoidal choroidal vasculopathy. Now when we did the OCT, actually, we got a lot of answers, though not all. So look here below the external limiting membrane, look what has happened to the ISOS junction, or what we call the ellipsoid zone. Look also that this is not a PED, this is some kind of mound on the Bruch's membrane. And also look that the choroidal thickness is not large or thickened as we see in CSCR. So I did not have autofluorescence in my clinic at this time, so I just asked him about similarly affected family members, and he said that his son, who's in Bangalore, he has some eye problem. So I contacted my friend in Narayan Netralaya, and sure enough, this is the fundus photograph and autofluorescence of the son, not just in the right but also in the left eye. So how did I diagnose this? I did not have autofluorescence. I simply diagnosed because OCT did not like CSC or neovascular AMD in a 70-year-old patient, and I proactively asked for the family history, because this a lot of people forget. When I say Best disease, my younger colleagues always say, you should say adult onset vitelliform dystrophy or Best neuropathy, all simply conjunct terms. But they forget that you should ask family history, because it's an autosomal dominant disease. So this is how we've settled the issue. Autofluorescence confirmed it, and we did not do EOG, but more importantly, we spared the old man the expensive and useless PDT. Now the other thing is corticosteroid abuse. So I remember when I was doing a post-graduation, that was ages back. So there was a tendency of the general practitioners to say anything in the retina, just give steroids, and most of them will get treated. And we think that this tendency is a thing of the past. Now think again. This is a 70-year-old man who needed photodynamic therapy and not just stick into the eye, which is Ozurdex. So steroids have also been used for a lot of other conditions like eczema, asthma, nasal decongestants, sometimes in Ayurvedic treatment, and even skin whitening creams relevant for the South Indian friends. So sometimes what looks like a choroiditis patch because of subretinal fibrin, you can just do an angiography and see that it's an ink blot leak. But sometimes it may be more subtle, and on OCT you get a typical picture actually which says that it is choroiditis. But don't be satisfied with this picture. Cut a scan through the choroidal lesion also, and then you can see a bump like this. And this is very typical, and this is not a PD. So just to highlight it more, the pushed up look, as if something is punching the retina from below, is different from the blistered look of a PED, and this is important to realize, as I'll show in another picture later. So here you can see the acute margins, and you can see the diffuse margins. You can see the Brooks below. I'm sorry, I'll take a little more time. And otherwise, on angiography, you can clearly make out the initial hypo and the late hyper typical of the choroiditis. Sometimes it can become a bullous detachment, and not only bullous, if you keep on giving steroid to this patient thinking it's exudative VRD, they may even develop subretinal fibrosis. Fortunately, simple fluorescein angiography shows the typical leaks, and this can be treated still with laser. Sometimes this goes on for so long that may develop new vessels actually. Now, we had a patient like this. He is a young patient with good vision, but he had NVE, NVI, and even new vessels in the angle. And this is the NVE, and he even had vasculitis because of the chronic sclerosis of the veins. Angiography again settled the diagnosis for us. OCT showed the schisis, but also the PEDs, and we could confirm this patient as a CSCR. And after a simple treatment with Avastin for NVI and transpupillary thermotherapy for the extrafoveal leaks, we could get a complete reattachment to this patient. This lady was referred to as a masked lesion. Again, just seeing this large PED. This time the angiography was confusing because it looked like a rib. But remember, the rib does not occupy the center of a PED, and this has an intact PED. You can see the top is thinned out, and you can see the classic edges. So we could say that it is an anomalous PED of a CSCR, which Gas has mentioned. This looked like a case of Mactel, but just looking below could confirm that this is a CSCR. So if you think that acute CSR is not bad, just think again, because in this case we had this anomalous leak again. Now this looked like a CNVM, but remember that CNVM develops very late in the course of a chronic CSCR. And this patient actually had just an attachment of the retina to the PD, which made a simple ink blot leak look like this. Another case of acute CSC where the FFA again was confusing. In this case, OCT showed that this is something else. This is what we now know as an occult orbitus pit with a schisis which has a surgical treatment. So in CSCR, we should always tread with cautions. Asians are more likely to develop the severe features. Beware of the steroids and beware of choroiditis. Diagnose before treating chronic diseases. Even acute CSCR may consider it a pitfall, and it is the minimal and not the multiple imaging, which is enough in most of the cases. Thank you very much, and sorry for the extra time.